What should be on a DM screen? That's what we're looking at here. I have 9 DM screens. Let's just go look through and see what the common denominator is and take a further glance into the world of DM screens. The Essentials kit comes with a cardboardy screen. Hey, it's good enough. We're not interested in the art, we're interested in what is actually meant to be on there. On the first panel, actions in combat. Now, being the Essentials kit, you would expect this to be the very rudimentary things. Attack, you make a melee or ranged weapon attack, but that is very vague. Using a magic item, you use a magic item that requires your action. Jumping, yes, long jump, high jump, and concentration rule. Concentration, obviously, if you take damage while concentrating on a spell, you may lose concentration. And another block, things you can do on your turn, take an action, communicate. Not especially helpful. Now, conditions, I think, are probably going to be the most misremembered and repeatable rule you'll come across. So, poisoned and frightened, for example, prone, they all have rules that you need to know. So that is good for a quick reference, I would say. The third panel, DCs. So you understand that moderate is 15 DC, and I end up going always around moderate as a general rule. Tracking DCs, I don't think I've ever used tracking DCs, but I see that there might be a time when that is helpful. Damage level by severity, also something personally I've never ever used. Or have I done object armor class? Like, oh, Mithril, what is the AC of Mithril? Just never come up. But it's all good research. How many hit points something has, an object, you know, skills and their associated ability, and animal handling is wisdom. I can see a function for it, and it's not something even now I would know. I would think, what is perception? Is it wisdom or intelligence? And the players would laugh at me. So maybe that is good for me, but I don't use this DM screen much. Ale and lodgings and, you know, squalid meals and places to stay. I've found that quite useful and quite eye-opening too. Services, moving between towns and hirelings. There's a time and place for that. Travel pace, I do not use at all. But obscured areas, explaining how difficult people are to see and how much distance you can move in an encounter, different terrains, audible distance, visibility, outdoors, and finally cover and light. Now, the only other starter set that gives you a DM screen is the Rick and Morty D&D adventure. This one, I know we're not talking about art, but it's a beautiful art on the front. This is a literal reskin of the exact same panels, just given the Rick and Morty artist flair. This official D&D screen with the dragon on the front, which I'll put a picture of, I have covered in cards of the conditions on the player's side so that they can understand quickly what the effects are. I have also put our critical hit rule, max damage plus you roll your damage dice. I added scrolls and how much to sell them for, and I asked Siri to basically pick a number between X and Y. And from the DM's guide, how much XP for how many people are playing you get as it multiplies with how many players. Because adding your own notes to a DM screen is really where opinions will differ. I have a list of NPC names. I also have this little chart reminding me, as I describe things going on, I describe what they see, what they feel, or what they hear, what they smell. I pick up 2 senses, and that's just a reminder for me. Because this DM screen is essentially exactly the same as the ones we've just looked at, conditions, skills, it's just the same, but I add my own things to them. Describe the senses, as I just said. Reminder to talk to every player as an NPC, or take it in turns, choose an NPC to talk to each individual player, to give them the role-playing opportunities if they're not that confident. Each NPC might choose from one of these. So they say thee and thou, they never stop to breathe, they're whiny, breathy. Another way to make NPCs more interesting. I think that is a good thing to add to a DM screen. Now we're on to ones that are for particular campaigns. Horde of the Dragon Queen then first. Greenest is the first place you go to. Parnast shouldn't be on there, but it's another place you do go. There are key allies to remember for yourself and how to describe them from the book. Then we have a list of encounters in each section. Easy and quick roll tables for things they might come up against. And then, yes, conditions. So conditions are very much accepted as being useful on the screen. More characters and NPCs that are important to the game, and that is it on that screen. Waterdeep Dragon Heist. Panel 1 starts off with the Code Legal, which is basically the rules in the city and what you can be arrested for. That takes up an entire panel. Then we have a whole section of daytime occurrences and nighttime occurrences, which are really useful. And I have personally found that so helpful when thinking of something on the fly. We have then a list of inns and boarding houses and the areas on the map where they are, in which part of town. Again, day-to-day expenses from those first few DM screens, taverns and fest halls, where they are, the quality of which they are, things to find, pickpocketed items, and finally the newspapers and a description of them. This is super useful when running Waterdeep. But where's all the, original, no conditions, no things to do on your turn? I bought Curse of Strads, especially too. So random encounters again seems to be something that's valued. Map of Castle Ravenloft, which is a huge place. In fact, it takes up the second panel also. Barovia, daytime encounters, nighttime encounters, and all the locations and which page they're on. Barovian names, male, female, family names. And then finally, the world map of Barovia itself. So not much in the way of general rules, very, very specific to Strahd. This is my latest screen, that's what I'm running right now. In the Nine Hells we have layers and who's the lords of the layers of the Nine Hells, infernal contracts and how they're presented to you, a description of those infernal contracts, infernal hierarchy and the list of fiends and archdevils, etc. The world map of, at least Avernus. 99 devil names, because a lot of devils will do deals with you. Then it's actually stat blocks of the Mad Max type war machines that you can steal and ride, and followed by the mishaps of such vehicles and chase complications. So that's very travel related. So gone are those basic, most fundamental rule sets, and they've really nailed down the book for the DM onto the pages of the DM screen. So it's more like you must know the rules to be running these games. Not always the case, is it? Entering space. Out into the astral plane for Spelljammer. Now this first panel goes straight back to setting a DC and the skills and abilities. But suffocation and weightlessness on the first panel with maps of the astral sea itself and how gravity works. That takes precedent instead of normal rules. This second panel chooses encounters again, wild space encounters, astral sea encounters. But unlike Waterdeep and telling you a little bit of information about it, it's simply 1d4 Kindori, that's it, no reason why. Ship encounters takes up quite a lot, understandably, of this space adventure. Ship to ship starting distance, crashing in a ship, closing off with shipboard task roll table, ship quirks, ship cargo, and not much in the way of rules. The last DM screen I currently own is Planescape. Panel 1, straight back to the beginning. Things you can do on your turn, how to jump, how to concentrate, cover, obscurity, exhaustion, which I don't think we've had before, setting a DC, hit points, skills. Conditions. Conditions are back. Then the specifics, the actual gate towns of the Outlands, factions of Sigil, wards of Sigil, encounters in Sigil, encounters in the Outlands, portals and the keys to those portals with a map of the outlands and gate towns. So the theme there seems to be that conditions is the most important thing to have at your fingertips, I would say. And then names of people. That's going to come up. Names of people, quirks of the NPCs and your voices. What you're going to do. A list of miscellaneous things that people have in their pockets. Do not have empty rooms in D&D. Completely empty of, if they're going in empty room after empty room, yes, they can rest there, that's probably what they're there for. But have a short list of interesting, mundane items that they can find, I would say. And no matter which DM screen you get some post-its so that you can, each session, change them up. Maybe you want to remember to say something to a PC. Whatever you struggle with, it's there for you to create your own list. And as I say, you do have the other side of the screen to remind players about aspects of your game. With a Descent into Avernus right now, I think the players could do with a reminder of their current quests on the front of the screen. NPCs that they meet, names of them, where they met them. So it's completely customizable. Whether you start with those first basic DM screens as a good refresher for these new rules. But how often will you use the suffocation rule or the long jump rule? When you get to PHB, it's overwhelming, isn't it, how many rules there are, but you can find them out on the internet in seconds. You don't need to pollute your DM screen with those things. But any DM screen that makes your world immersive, I think is the best one. The Waterdeep one, I'm a huge fan of. And there's no reason why you can't have a bigger space and have 2 DM screens arcing around you. If you have the space, I suppose. I'm a sucker for a DM screen, but I think it was the Tomb of Annihilation one that I heard bad reviews about. I don't have it, so I don't know. But normally, I would always buy a DM screen. The truth of the matter is, I probably barely look at it because it's covered in my own notes. So the information for me is a bit redundant on there. Let me know what's on your DM screen, or which ones you own, or what you would like on them, and I'll see you in another video.